High Vibe Conversations. I'm Ambassador Terry with the wonderful.
Linda Vetras Nichols.
And here we are with the High Vibe Conversations. Ladies, welcome here. And for all of you popping in and watching the recordings, welcome. Here we go with another very interesting chat today. And it has to do with forgive and remember. And we'll get into some other things that are around that here in just a little bit. I'm going to turn the mic over to the fabulous Linda, and let's roll.
Yeah, this is an interesting subject, and it's really super interesting that forgive and forget isn't even in the Bible. I really feel like forgive and forget is part of like narcissistic relationship stuff. And even like religion in general, and definitely like religious cult. So Jenny, you're kind of our expert there. What comes up for you in that area when you think about forgive and remember instead of forgive and forget? Yeah.
Right. I am going to keep this very close to home. So I myself have left a abusive marriage. And I know firsthand that when you leave that and you start opening up about your own suffering, you start calling things by their real name, which is really a road to clarity. And clarity leads to action. So that's really the road to reclaiming your power and reclaiming your life, that you start living and accepting reality so that you can build from there. And I know that when we are real and authentic and we start opening up, that is going to have effect on people. And for some people, that is going to stir up emotions of their own. And it sometimes causes people to actually further the abuse and say, please be quiet.
Yeah.
The more you stay quiet about this, the better you're going to heal. It's not an advice I would recommend to give to someone who is healing from abuse and narcissism. So, or a narcissistic relationship.
Right.
So we get to be very conscious in how we react to other people.
And
really distinguish between, what they're sharing, what is that bringing up for me, and am I encouraging them to keep sharing, to keep healing? And also for ourselves, that when we do reclaim our power and when we share our stories, to not let those messages sink in, to really turn to the people who support us. That's what's coming up for me.
Thank you. There's so much bravery behind the share. And that if you haven't experienced a narcissistic relationship, you're not going to know that. Yeah. So again, that's the like, oh, you sound a little unhealed today. It's like, what? Sounds like you're a little unhealed today. I mean, I could comment back. So yeah, hiding. So much hiding. It's really interesting. Here, anything come up for you?
Oh, a lot comes up for me today. As we spoke before we come on air, it's International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And, it happened long enough ago that young people doubt whether or not it happened. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it did. And whenever, people are people. There are good people, there are bad people. And it really doesn't matter what their body shape is, their color, or their beliefs. Okay? No one deserves to be mass murdered simply for being who they are. And that is not acceptable, and it will never be acceptable. And I feel resonance with that because I am a Native American. And back a couple of hundred years ago, there was, not in the history books, but it was out there. Well, let's get rid of all them Indians. Let's just kill them all off. And then We have the whole country to ourselves. Well, guess what, folks? That didn't work. There was enough left over for seeds to rebuild, and we are back. And we are just as valid as anyone else anywhere in the world. And this day helps to remind us of bad people doing bad things, and for not allowing those types of people to do it again.
Right.
So it's a resonance with me, big time. Linda?
Right. And we teach, there are no good memories, there are no bad memories. And really, there's no good people, there's no bad people. It's still kind of a way of labeling. And everyone has light, and everyone, has that place that they've walled the light off, which looks like, oh, there's light and there's darkness. No, there's light, and the light isn't being let in. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Anybody else?
That's a valid point about, labeling. The enemy are all bad people. Well, guess what? To those people, we're the enemy, and that makes us bad people. Well, no, it doesn't. They are. Well, yeah. See, now you see the manipulation of the thought process into hating a people or a belief or whatever that you have no knowledge of.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, when you meet somebody who resonates with you and they happen to have that belief, there's huge conflict. Well, that's just not right.
Yep. The spiritual teaching I had was to look at the stories in the Bible, and then, excuse me, if there's a story of like somebody was being bad, somebody was a sinner or whatever. Okay, where is that in you? My goodness. So how is it that you do that? Well, I didn't mass murder somebody. I didn't do this. I didn't do that, right? Okay, but where in your life are you doing that? That's the way I really enjoyed studying scripture.
Wonderful.
Dorette, what's come up for you? Or Shell?
Yeah, I'll jump in right here. Terry, you mentioned the thought process and also labeling. Those were two terms that you brought up, and I'm going to do some labeling of my own right now, because when you forget, that's a trauma response. I'm going to label that as a trauma response. And when you are remembering, that's a healing response. So when you are going through the thing and you get that reaction, you initially react, right? Your response is not to hold it in necessarily, unless you've been shamed over and over and over again to silence. But when you're going through something, the reaction and the response from other people oftentimes is just forgive and forget. Just move on. It'll get better. Don't hold on to it. Don't hold a grudge. Well, then your instinct as a response to that is, of course I'm going to hold a grudge. Like, how could I forgive? They just wronged me, or this happened and like it should never have. Why me? And all of that is a trauma response. All of that is your negative self-talk that you're then projecting back onto the world. And that's all trauma. It's only when you can then go back in and let it all out and remember it and say it out loud and speak it into existence, as Jenny said, like, say it. That's part of the healing. That's when like the real growth can happen. So I wanted to do some labeling of my own with the trauma and the healing, but also like it. I can say for my own experience, I shamed myself into silence a lot of times. And I held it in, and then I was resentful that I stayed quiet because I didn't feel heard. But that was my choice to do that. That regardless of anybody else telling me to do so, that was still my choice. I chose that. And I could have still spoke up. And so now when I do speak out about things, yeah, there's still some like residual trauma happening in my mind of like, all right, what's everybody's response going to be to this? How are they going to react to my
Right.
healing? And I don't care. I don't give a shit because it's my process to go through. They can go through their own process.
Right.
So also making that distinction that your trauma and your healing are yours alone to navigate.
Mhm.
Other people are going to navigate their own. And Linda, you and I talked about that last week on a call, right?
Right.
I was still very, very triggered by somebody else's potential reaction to what I had to say.
Mhm.
And that was not my problem. So I encourage people to recognize the difference between where you're at with the trauma and where you're at with the healing. And if you're still in the trauma, which most of us still have a lot of stuff that we're working through constantly, then it's okay to be in the trauma. That's where you're at. And if you're in the healing part of all the different things or one thing in particular, that's where you're at with that. It doesn't have to be one or the other, but recognize where you are with those things.
Well said, Shell, and it really dovetails with what Jenny was talking about, how the other person is having their own issues, and when you're sort of like feeling like you have been victimized, and now you're kind of feeling like the victim, it's really hard to pause and take a breath and actually see what's going on with the other person. And I would say that, like, well, everybody here really is to that point in their healing where they're able to see what's really going on for the other people and how it really isn't you, it's so much more them. And that magnifying glass is like, you're seeing it more and more and more, to the point where it's like, I don't need to be connected with that person on social media. Whatever. So instead of being triggered and living from a place of protection, and Jenny talks about, being on the beach and your arms are out, and then how we, just start to really close down our lives. So from here, when you start going like this, you really do start to see that, hey, this isn't my issue. This is their issue. Yep, that's a good one. And then, Shell, you mentioned like that people are saying, don't do this and don't do that. And the brain doesn't hear the word don't. So they're telling you to do what they don't want you to do, which is super crazy making. It's not helpful to tell someone, don't do this and don't do that. Yeah, that always is one of my pet peeves, as you guys know. How about you, Dora? What's coming up for you?
Well, I see it from the point that we learn through stories. And it has been like that since the dawn of time. People were coming back from the hunt or things like that and telling stories. And that's how we learned. So if something wrong happened, then if they would just forget it, then no one would learn from it. I grew up with my parents were very much alive during World War II, and my grandparents had to raise kids through that. And I was told a lot of stories about Holocaust and all that implied. And those stories, they shaped me. And I told them to my kids because it's part of our history, of course. It's not in the books, it's lived. And
Yeah.
if they were to just forgive and forget and say, oh, it's 1945, this is over, let's just shut up about it, then those stories would not be shaping lives even today.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I view it, that we need to share when things like that happen, when even if it's happening to one person, not an entire human race, but it's not acceptable anyway. and we shouldn't shut up about it. We should share, and we should talk about it over and over again for our own healing sake, and for teaching others that this actually happened, and yeah, maybe it can save someone else someday.
Yeah. And you know, my spin is we get to.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah,
It's our right and it's our privilege. And just because something traumatic happened and there's other people saying don't talk about it, it's our right to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
We get to talk about it, man.
Yeah,
Oh.
if we don't talk about it, we kind of protect the others. We protect the wrongdoers.
Yep, absolutely. And both you and Shell on the live, you know, well, I think Shell's on the Zoom, but we recorded it for the book, our next book. So, yeah, Dorit talked about her two rapes, Shell talked about hers, and good on you, because the reaction to those rapes and all, you know, the twisting that was done by other people, as well as the internal twisting that you guys did in your own head, stopped you from talking about it, so that we do have that teaching out in the world. And I'm so excited about our next week. And, you know, that's part of the teaching. Are we getting my vibration back? Oh, let's try it. Oh, okay, that worked. Yeah, so that's huge. And that's what I really wanted to do, the forgive and remember. And I think it was Jenny and I were talking, and maybe that was kind of what popped out, the forgive and remember idea. And then we started like really delving into, you know, even just in religion, how do we say that? Religious communities, or even all the way to cults and stuff like that. So, Jenny, is there anything else you wanted to share? Maybe on the cult side?
Yeah. I keep, you know, in conversations with my clients, I keep saying that healthy boundaries is a gift not only to you, but to the other person.
Ooh,
Because
so
it helps also, you know, no, it's not speaking from a place of bitterness, it's speaking from a place of truth.
mm-hmm.
This is what happened, and this is how it happened to me. And when we call things by their true name, it doesn't just ground me in reality so that I get to wake up and make clear-minded decisions. It actually also grounds the people around me. And it grounds the other person who put me through this.
Right.
Normal reactions to stuff, because they certainly didn't get that at the point.
Yeah, right.
At the time. So it's a gift. And when you free yourself, you don't just free yourself, you free everyone around you. Because I give myself permission, and I don't even have to say that I do. I don't have to put it into words. Just the fact that I wake up and I give myself permission to be me and to share my stories is showing the people around me that they are allowed too. And they get to reclaim and expand their lives too.
Stories are made from words, and words are very powerful, as we all know. And I love Stina Marie's teachings with her kids. And, you know, there was Rape and Reconciliation. It's a YouTube video. It's really good. And the consideration there of instead of like rape is something that bad people do, it kind of brainwashes that, like, well, I didn't do that, you know, and we let ourselves get away with things we normally wouldn't. So you kind of see that in that video. It's really powerful. So rape is something that's done without consent. You can be in a marriage bed and there can still be a rape. You can be in bed naked with a guy and you know, you can be raped. It wasn't because you were in bed naked with a guy. It means you didn't give consent. And so the words and the way we raise our kids, like Terry's kind of like good people, bad people, we get to watch that. where is it in your life that you raped somebody? Where is it in your life that you murdered somebody? Like, broke their heart or whatever, like owning up to the fact that you're everything and you're no better than anybody else. I'm not. So our egos want us to think we are, because our egos are constantly trying to protect us. So when we have that concept of non-duality, that everything just is, it's not this or this, that's when we really get into mental health issues, is when we're living in non-duality. It's like, well, I mean, in duality, it's like, well, I have these two choices. Like, no, you have a choice to make, but it's not like two choices. Just decide. Everything just is. We put all this drama, we put all these stories. I got these two choices. I can't make up my mind. Have an open relationship with yourself is another YouTube video that's excellent. It's by Kyle Cease. It's a riot too. It's really deep drill down psychology from that one. It's awesome. What else is coming up for you, Dorit?
No, I was just listening to you guys, and yeah, it's all pieces of a puzzle. We all have our own experience to talk from, and the most important thing, I think, for me is to not forget, to always remember, and to carry it onwards as a learning and as a mean of growth. That's what came up for me.
I love it. I'm getting the choking.
Talk about a puzzle.
Right?
Let's remember that. Let's remember, not forget, that forgetting isn't natural. Like, forgetting doesn't just like happen for no reason. That's like your body protecting you. That's you repressing whatever is happening, and your body is protecting you. But your body doesn't forget. Your body remembers. And you could have blocked something out completely, and your body still knows. Your body still remembers it very clearly, and you can have reactions to things without even realizing why you're having reactions to them, and have no recollection that it ever happened until you've gone back and unpacked it. But the body knows. So there's no validation behind telling people to forget something, because if you're meant to forget it, the body's going to do it. The body is going to allow you to forget for your protection, but it's not a natural, like, I don't think it's a natural thing otherwise to like knowingly just forget something. But that's the puzzle of being a human.
Wow.
Excellent.
That was excellent. Good job.
They prove that even at, chiropractors, just touching somewhere on the body to adjust, and this memory comes flying into somebody's brain. So yeah, we call it cellular memory, and that's the work that we do, is getting back to that main active block that then keeps calling in those same patterns into somebody's life till they're at enough is enough, and we take them through our process. And Dorit, she does hypnosis, and so she totally understands the whole body connection too, right, Dorit?
Yeah, I actually have had several clients that has had issues today with things that didn't even happen in their life. I had a client that couldn't bring herself to show her abilities. She was always holding back, always trying to belittle herself and hide in a way. And when we went into the session, it came up that she was actually, she started crying, and it was really real to her in the moment that she found that memory. But she had actually been burnt as a witch in a prior life. So by having an ability and being found or seen, that ended badly for her. So even today, she tried to kind of play small and hide and not show anyone what she really could do. But when she realized, when she saw that this was just a memory from a past life, it didn't have anything to do with her upbringing or her own values, she kind of, you know, she could release that and accept that I have this, I want to use it for good. And she took a giant leap and blossomed.
Nice.
Yeah. So I know how that can manifest in people. Absolutely. Thank you, Shell, and thank you, Linda.
Wow.
And another
You
one.
ladies are amazing. All right. These conversations are really high vibe conversations because the connection in that vibration and the exchange each week have been phenomenal for this guy to be a part of. Thank you so
That's
much
true.
for being part of my world for a few minutes on a Thursday. And any wrap up stuff there, co-host?
Thank you for having us. Thank you for hosting this for us each week. It's really beautiful to have the masculine energy. You know, we did a lot of videos, just us women, and thank you.
Right on, right on. Well, thanks again for being here with us. Thanks for you listening in. And for those picking up the recordings, leave your comments, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you all and see you again.